It's coming up for 1:30. Let's bring you to our breaking news story this hour. A popular DJ has been shot and killed in the Johannesburg CBD. Let's take you live to the Carlton Centre and to our reporter, Nqobile Madlala, who is tracking the story. Nqobile, this is a story that came to our attention not too long ago. How much are we able to say about the identity of this person, and has the family been informed?
Well, at this very point, we understand that the family is currently on the scene, Michelle. In fact, some of those friends and families are currently very much shocked and still on the scene. And I want to bring in one of the one of the friends that have worked with him for quite some time. Can you give us details? I know it's still quite shocking for you in terms of what has happened.
Look, obviously we can't still in a site, people are still investigating, but it's recently just happened. It's a major shock. It's hard to piece the words, to speak about this guy in the past tense, but we're still trying to, the family's in shock, everyone's in shock, close friends and family are here. It's very unfortunate what has happened, and we're going to miss the guy. It's hard to speak about this guy that is not here. I was with him hours ago, last night. We recorded our last episode of the podcast just yesterday, and for him not to be around is quite the shock. Yeah.
And I know it's still very much difficult, but can you take us through what you have heard so far?
Can't release any information now. As I said, it's still an investigation site, but the family will release a statement, and as time goes on, obviously there'll be more details released. Yeah.
How are you going to remember him as?
A guy's crazy in a great way. He was literally, we were yin and yang, but great balance in terms of being able to call each other out or bring different perspectives to each other. I'm sad for his kids. He was a great father. Would do anything for his kids. His last cent or last bit of energy would be directed towards his kids. So that's a bit of a sad one. And yeah, he was a great broadcaster. He's had an amazing stint in terms of broadcasting from YFM, 5FM, podcasting. He was very vocal on social media. But yeah, again, great ball of energy, and it's hard to speak about this guy in the past. I think that's the tough one. I'm still processing, but yeah.
And just if you take us into your confidence, some of the things that you did together, or rather the work you did together.
So I've known Warrick since 2010 or 2009. I think that's when we first met in Cape Town. And I think ever since then, I can't count the days. Everything about him was just amazing energy. Hilarious guy, extremely hilarious. And yeah, I'm going to miss him, man. It's hard to talk about this guy that is not here, but yeah, I feel for everyone who was around him and who knew him in his personal capacity. He was the life of, how the people say life of the party. He was just like the energy that everyone needed in the room, so I'm gonna miss that guy. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. Well, that is a colleague and a friend, Michelle, that has worked with this popular DJ. And we know, and based on what we're hearing as we're coming in, is that we're told that he was actually in his car when he was sort of ambushed or shot at by a couple of assailants. We know that the investigation is still ongoing, but we had a chance to speak to some of the people that were on the ground when this happened. They speak about the fact that he was still alive when they got into the scene, and they were trying to get some assistance with regards to an ambulance coming on the scene. But like you heard from his friend as well as a colleague, who has explained to us that it's very difficult to speak about this DJ in the past tense, mainly because of the work that he has done, but also because they were together not so long ago. We know that he's worked very hard in terms of his career, starting as far as YFM, building his career up to even going as having some of those popular shows that he has been part of presenting. But we also know that there is a podcast that he has been part of, and that's the podcast that his colleague here has worked with him on. So a very difficult moment at this point. As you can see right in front of you, that's the forensics that is police also arriving, the body still very much on the scene. The family is also here. We were let know as we were coming in that some of his brothers as well are still on the scene. So you can just imagine the sort of emotion that this has with regards to the family having to come to an area like this, a very busy one as well in the CBD, to find their loved one having been shot at. But we know that the incident took place just after 11 o'clock, we are told, and that's when it really shocked everybody when it took place. So we are trying to get more details with regards to what is going on and maybe what are the investigations at the moment. But the police are currently on the ground, as you can see, the forensics right in front of you, still doing their job. The entire place is now cordoned off, and a lot of people cannot and they're not allowed to go onto the scene. So a very difficult moment indeed for the family, painful one indeed. We are told that he is a father, and we are understanding that his family is also going through the emotions, and as a friend was explaining to us that it's going to be very difficult for his children, mainly because he's been somebody who was really so great.
The person we're talking about is DJ Warras, his real name Warrick Stock, Nqobile, South African radio and club DJ, also a television presenter, best known for his work on perhaps YFM. Nqobile, we're also being told that he was inspecting at the time of the shooting, inspecting buildings guarded by his security company. What are these buildings? What do we know?
Well, so far, Michelle, what we understand is, yes, he does own a security company, but in the area that we're in, although we don't have the definite details exactly which ones are the buildings, but we know that the CBD is a very busy area. So some of the buildings here are also having been hijacked. So we're not sure if his security company would have been one of those that would be looking after those buildings. But we know that the city of Johannesburg has struggled quite a lot with some of the buildings that have been hijacked over the past. We've seen fires, we've seen people passing away from incidents as per such. So it is quite a terrain that is you have to navigate quite well, especially because of the fact that there is so much criminality that takes place around some of the buildings. But in Carlton Centre, where we are in the CBD and around the CBD, it seems to be a bit more controlled, and we understand that as a DJ. As we understand at the moment, is that as the family comes in here, and of course they also get to deal with the emotions. But Michelle, we know that the security company that is working on the ground was one of the many businesses that he was part of. So he was definitely a good businessman, and this is very difficult for many people that got to see him up close, and we have had to deal with him on a personal basis. Some of the security guards that are around this area, we're talking about how kind he was towards them when he was walking past, and so it was difficult for them to see what had taken place when it did take place, when he was shot at. We understand, of course, Michelle, that this happened around about 11 o'clock.
40-year-old DJ, harrowing images coming us there from the CBD, Nqobile, of his body lying covered there in that silver blanket, which we know is an indicator of someone having had died, in this case, apparently shot dead in the Johannesburg CBD. It is still very early, this happening just some hours ago, Nqobile. Is there any kind of statement at all from police at this stage?
Well, at the moment, Michelle, what we have seen is just police on the ground. There hasn't been really valid details as to what happened. But of course, we know that there was the shooting that took place, so we're still trying to get details with regards to what the police will be investigating. But in a case where someone would have been shot and killed, we understand that there would be a case of murder potentially, and those are some of the things that would be of investigation. So we know that the police are currently investigating, as you can see there, the forensics as well on the ground, just sort of inspecting the body before it is taken away by the forensics pathology services. We know, though, that this DJ was someone who had quite a number of businesses, and he was working on the ground with various people. So a lot of people are still very much hurt by what has taken place. There's a friend that had gone on the scene there. You can see a colleague and a friend having gone to see the body and sort of assist. And we know that he's one of the people that had been chosen by the family to speak, which means he is actually supposed to be quite strong for the family, but difficult indeed to face what has taken place here. But this popular DJ has left a mark really in the industry, one that a lot of people are still talking about, including the friend that he was working with on the podcast was talking about his kind of work, his character as a person, saying that he's quite a funny oak, but also someone who's very dedicated to his craft, very dedicated to his work, but clearly also very kind, as we had heard from some of the people that we had spoken to when we were coming in. And while some people were willing to speak to us, Michelle, they were quite scared to give us more details, mainly because they were saying that they are scared that something would happen to them based on what they had seen quite earlier on when that incident took place. And they spoke about having been able to try and assist him whilst he was laying there on the floor. So that in itself was quite traumatic. So a 40-year-old DJ, one that has worked very, very, very well. One of the shows that he has been on, Michelle, the Man Cave, which he is known for. And we know that he continued really his work until just about 2 days ago, we are told, as they were shooting the last episode of his podcast.
Yeah. The friend you spoke to saying that he saw him just hours ago, Nqobile. Of course, today's a public holiday, so they may well have been out and about last night. When would this incident, this shooting incident, according to the reports that you have, when would it have happened?
So, Michelle, based on what we have heard so far, we're told that the incident happened around about 11, just before 12 o'clock, by a person that said that when the shooting took place, they said they had seen one of the suspects. We are told that one of the suspects was actually around the corner, and they had seen after the shooting when they went in there and they saw that he had gotten shot, and they were trying to assist, but they were scared of one of the suspects that fled the scene after that. So they're saying it was just after 11 when the incident took place. Furthermore, we know that he had just parked his car, and it seems he had just arrived when the incident took place, so there wasn't much of the altercation or anything that had taken place then, besides the fact that he also apparently tried to retaliate, we are told. Unfortunately, by that time he had been badly wounded. Michelle, just to remind you, we know that DJ Warras is his name, his real name being Warrick Stock. We know that he's from Durban. He grew up in Johannesburg, and one of his interviews is when he was talking about how quite fond he was of his grandmother, which we understand is one of the people that raised him. We know that when he moved in Johannesburg, he moved as a teenager, but also as a person that was sort of looking into the industry that he's working in, looking into the entertainment industry and having always looked up to that entertainment industry. So he's one of the people that have been quite influential, and one of the people that we are known has been described as quite smart. He had said that as a child he used to be quite a smart child. We know that he's been on some of the magazine programs, one of them being Live Amp, which he was on in 2012, also part of the Man Cave, which is what he continued to be a part of. Really just someone who is quite inspirational in his job with regards to being in a radio DJ, also being a club DJ, and also being on television. So he's done quite good work really in the industry. So we are still getting more details, assessing more details with regards to what happened to him. And of course, as being somebody who's in the entertainment industry, you would imagine that there's someone who's quite loved and someone who's quite appreciated. So for incidents like this to take place, there would be a lot of people that would be able to perhaps help even the police to investigate, you know, in scenes like this, that the police would go out to even ask those that had seen what had taken place to sort of assist with the investigation. So we are still trying to gather more details, Michelle, in terms of what is the way forward here. But we know that he still lays here on the scene. The pathology services have arrived. We're still waiting for them to be able to take his remains.
Shocking story coming to us here from the Johannesburg CBD. DJ Warras, real name Warrick Stock, South African radio DJ, club DJ, television presenter, podcaster, shot and killed in the Johannesburg CBD around midday today. He was reportedly killed while inspecting buildings guarded by his security company. Some colleagues there also on the scene. You can see that obviously they are incredibly shocked, this having happened just some hours ago. One friend speaking to our reporter on the scene telling us that he had seen him just hours ago. His body still lying on the sidewalk there in the Joburg CBD near the Carlton Centre, likely where the shooting would have taken place. Forensic services are on the scene, so are his family, friends, colleagues from the industry. And there he is, Warrick Stock, 40 years old. He had quite the career going on from 2011. He hosted YFM on weekdays. He's hosted various shows on SABC1, SABC3 as a presenter of a show called The Man Cave, originally born in Durban, then moving to Johannesburg when he was a teenager. And that led him to work for YFM as far back as 2008. All right. Well, earlier, the Sport, Arts and Culture Minister, Gayton McKenzie, who was at the official Reconciliation Day commemorations earlier in KZN, also paid tribute to Stock.
Listen, I'm devastated. I'm angry. I am devastated. I'm angry. I'm very sad. DJ Warras was a true patriot of South Africa. He was passionate about the future of this country. And, you know, we appreciated him. Our department, we booked DJ Warras to come and entertain the international guest. So I'm very sad. And I think the time has come that people need to be taught a lesson. I'm saying it without fear. He was very anti-hijacking of our buildings, illegal foreigners. And I'm waiting for the police minister to say to us what's the cause of his death.
Staying with these live visuals coming to us from the scene there in the Johannesburg CBD, a close friend of DJ Warras has described him as loving, compassionate, and as a decent human being.
I've just heard the news that my brother, my friend, my fellow supporter of Western civilization and the Judeo-Christian faith was murdered today in Johannesburg. I just want to say he was the most loving, compassionate, friendly, honest, open, decent human being. And it is a tragedy beyond belief. Warras, we love you. We miss you. May you rest in peace, brother.
Well, certainly a tragedy, a life cut so desperately short, just 40 years old. It is our breaking news story this hour. DJ Warras, who is Warrick Stock, that's his real name, South African radio and club DJ, television presenter, shot dead in the Johannesburg CBD near the Carlton Centre around midday today. There are reports that it is linked somehow, but of course these are unconfirmed. We'll get the statement from police in due course. But he was inspecting buildings guarded by his security company. He owns a number of companies, businesses outside of his work in the media. You can see police still on the scene there, forensics on the scene as well. Nqobile, his body is also still on the sidewalk there near the Carlton Centre. And I imagine that a lot of his friends, colleagues, of course his family as well, would have been on the scene as well.
They don't want to share their interviews.
All right, we'll take you back to our reporter who's in the CBD. Nqobile Madlala is tracking this story for us. You can see police doing the intricate work now of already inspecting the scene, measuring distances that will inform some of the decisions they make about how things unfolded during this shooting around midday today. Warwick stock 40-year-old DJ known as DJ Warras, radio and club DJ, a television presenter as well, shot dead on this day of reconciliation just around midday this afternoon. Nqobile, we're hearing from all quarters now, friends on social media, the Sport, Arts and Culture Minister as well, just expressing what is clearly a shocking turn of events. It's 10 to 4. This happened just hours ago, just before midday.
Yes, indeed, Michelle, and we're going to try to get more details and more reaction from some of the families and friends that are on the scene at the moment. But we know that obviously very difficult for many people who actually loved him and appreciated him and the work that he has done, really.
My name's Nicole Stock. I'm Warwick's sister. I can't disclose the details of what's actually happened here today. It's traumatic. We've been here for a couple of hours. I don't know what to say. All I can just say that let us respect the mourning period. He's got beautiful children, beautiful mums. You know, we need people, we need positivity right now. We know you spoke up about many different things, controversial topics. Let's not focus on the negative. Let's focus on what he stood for, that he was a good guy. He found humor in things that traumatize most of us, but just to show who we are as a nation and as South Africans. And I'll speak to that side of Warwick because all of you know he was a selfless human being. He loved everybody, every single person. You could be green, orange, red, yellow. He loved them all. He found humor in the fact that we all blended human beings. And let's look at those things. There's no divide in who we are. And I don't know what else to say, so I think, yeah.
Is there any information coming from the police at this stage in terms of how close they are to finding who did this?
So it's just happened, it's still very fresh, and I can't speak about it right now. Yeah, it'll come out, yeah, in time.
And perhaps,
I don't want to speak out of turn.
And perhaps it's just the sister. Take us through the moments that you'll remember about your brother.
I was actually laughing and telling a friend this morning that I need to introduce you to my brother because he was complaining about something, but not speaking English. He was speaking to me in Zulu and speaking so loud and so passionately about something that he was going through. And this was literally on Friday. You know, and I think that's all I can say. You all know who he is. Those videos, that's really who Warwick is, who DJ Warras is. He was the same person behind the camera and the same person on the streets. Never ever different, never act in an unusual manner. He was who he said he was, and I think that's all I can say about him.
Perhaps when it comes to his activism and the work that he did, does the family believe perhaps this may have resulted in what we're seeing here today?
I can't answer that, unfortunately, yeah.
What kind of businessman was he?
Very astute businessman. I think he flew a little bit close to the sun, as our mum would say about both of us. But I suppose that's what life's about. It's the adventure. Yeah, I can't even say I can't. Yeah.
Just lastly from my side, Nicole, what do you want South Africans to remember about your brother and the work that he did?
he was building bridges between all of us, between every race, every culture across South Africa. He was for South Africa coming together, being rebuilt. Yes, he spoke boldly about sensitive topics, but he was an amazing human being that believes in our country. And we must remember that and carry that with us all the time, what he stood for. It wasn't just talk or anything. He stood and he lived for what he spoke about. And I think it's important that we understand that and that we see who he really was. Let's unite as South Africans, please.
And you speak about him as sort of like the glue that sort of brought the family together, and you say he's a bridge amongst all of us, and that's very interesting. But now that means that your family also has lost that glue. How are you coping?
We are not coping. That's the honest truth. We are devastated, angry, you know. How do you define death, murder, and all the things that we experience as human beings, not only us? So everybody's traumatized. His children are traumatized. It's hysteria. It's hysteria. There's no other way to describe it at the moment. We've lost a giant in the family, a giant as friends, a giant as a nation.
Thank you so much.
It's a great loss. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time and for speaking to us. That is the sister just giving us details around how they're going to remember Warrick as a person who is a giant. They're talking about the work that he has done and also just how quite traumatic the family is at this very moment, mainly because of what has taken place here in the CBD, what has happened here with regards to the shooting of the brother. And we're understanding that he's got children, and at this point we understand there's about 3 children, and we're told that they're currently quite traumatized by what has taken place here, Michelle. But even though the family can't give us details with regards to what has taken place and what is going on, they are saying to us that the investigations are currently still ongoing with regards to his shooting and what has taken place in the CBD. But him as a person, they'll remember him as a funny guy, as a lovely person, and interestingly explaining him as a glue that brings together the family, as somebody who built a bridge with regards to everybody. And just even though he's spoken about those controversial things they're saying, remember the good things that he always spoke about. And now he lays there on the ground, Michelle, a person that has come to be known for his work in the industry, for his work in TV, for his work in the radio, for his work really as an inspirational person. And also, as we were talking about the security business that he has gone on to have, we were hearing that as a person who is into business, he was quite a good business leader, and he was quite great at what he was doing. So all of that from that person that at this moment cannot, the family can phantom by actually speaking about him in the past tense. That's just how difficult it has been for this family.
It's hard enough to lose someone, Nqobile, harder still to lose them when it's due to violence of that nature. It is our breaking news story this hour. DJ Warras, Warrick Stock, South African radio DJ, television presenter and podcaster, also a businessman, shot and killed in the Johannesburg CBD just some hours ago. We are tracking this story. The forensic services from the police still on the scene alongside his family, friends and